around the corner, and we know that if you are sick during Ramadan, you're expected to make up the days you miss. But what if you actually suffer with a chronic, incurable illness such as Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis? Should you fast? Can you fast? And how do you stay flare-free during Ramadan? And if you want my personal survival guide on how to get through Ramadan if you have Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, stick around to the end of this video and I'll tell you where you can download this free guide. Assalamu alaikum, and yes, that is peace be upon you in Arabic, and for those of you that don't know, I am actually a Muslim who suffers with Crohn's disease, which brings me onto this very relevant topic because something is going to happen in the next few days known as Ramadan. Welcome back to my channel, the only place for Crohn's and colitis tips, tricks and information, so make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified every time I post a video. And if you want to join an exclusive community of people who receive my personal tips, tricks on living with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, make sure you sign up to my newsletter by clicking the link in the description box below. Now, before I give you my top tips and tricks for fasting during Ramadan, let me just say that if you are suffering with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis or any other chronic incurable disease that requires you to be on medication, then you actually are exempted from fasting and you should not fast. End of. But for those of you out there who do choose to fast like I have done, then listen up as I will give you my top tips and tricks that will hopefully get you through Ramadan. Number one is check if you are actually well enough to fast and you don't have to do the whole month. Before even thinking about fasting, you should discuss it with your IBD team and your doctor, especially if you have a stoma, fistulas and other complications, and I'll explain why later on in this video. Do what you can do, and if at any point you don't feel well, stop fasting. Number two is find other ways to participate. Ramadan is not just about the physical act of fasting, but it's also about feeling closer to Allah and doing what you can to help the less fortunate. And the whole point of Ramadan is to make you realize how fortunate you are to have what you have, which also includes your health. So even if you can't fast, try and volunteer at a homeless shelter, prepare food and drink for the less fortunate, or even read more Quran. The list is literally endless. It's all about improving yourself spiritually and feeling closer to Allah. Number three is pace yourself and don't overdo it at iftar. Now, going the whole day without food and drink can lead you to binge eat and drink. Now, what I actually suggest is you break your fast with a date, some chai or with some soup. I would also suggest to keep it light and leave enough time for your body to actually register that you've eaten before eating anything else. This can actually really help you feel less full and less lethargic later on during the day. Number four, watch what you actually eat. So leading on from my previous point, it can be so easy not to only binge on food, but to binge on the sugary and greasy foods that have been on your mind all day. Now try and avoid eating too much of these foods because they can either give you a sugar crash later on or make you feel very full and uncomfortable. Now try and reduce the amount of fizzy drinks that you actually have along with the sugary and fatty foods, because this can cause you to feel bloated and even make you constipated, especially as you've been dehydrated during the whole day. Number five, now leading on to dehydration, make sure you keep hydrated as best as you can. Now the way you can do this is by taking on as much fluid before you start fasting. Now don't just chug down bottles of water before sunrise, try and stagger the amount of drink you have before sunrise, which is hard, I know, especially as it does interrupt your sleep. Now, as mentioned on my point number one, if you are fasting and you do have a stoma or suffer from fistulas and other complications, then you can actually lose more water than you would usually do if you didn't have them. And that is not a very good idea when you're fasting because you can become really dehydrated really quickly and then you can run into trouble. As I said, if you do suffer from these complications, then dehydration is a real problem. And if you really do want to fast, then first of all, check with your doctor if you're healthy enough to fast. And if you've been given the all clear, what I suggest is actually keep drinking water, but not having food. Some people may think this is not actually fasting, but it's all about your intention and helping you feel closer to Allah. That is really the main important thing during Ramadan. Now, number six, don't feel guilty if you break your fast unintentionally. Now, even I have fallen victim to this in the past, and it's just a simple thing. I remember at school, I would always have a drink of water from the water fountain before registration in the afternoon. And well and behold, during Ramadan, I did exactly that. And I thought, oh my God, what have I done? I have condemned myself for all eternity. Now, as mentioned before, there is no shame in that, especially if you've done it unintentionally. And even if you do break your fast early intentionally, there is also no shame in that. Number 7 is actually really important, and maybe I should have started off with this, is don't change your medication routine. Now, first off, if you are on medication that needs to be taken orally, then you are actually exempt from fasting. And if you do have a set medication routine, my biggest advice is do not change that to fit with sunrise and sunset. Number 8 is let work know that you are going to be doing Ramadan. Now, if you're worried about managing your fast at work, make work aware that you will be fasting and see if you're able to change your hours to help you manage it. And those are my top tips on fasting during Ramadan with IBD. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I have done this special guide for you, which actually has much more in-depth material and more tips than what has been mentioned in this video. So if you want to download that, make sure you hit the link in the description box below. If there's anything that I forgot to mention, or if there's anything that you do differently during Ramadan with your chronic illness, let me know in the description box below. But now make sure you check out these videos for more useful tips, tricks and information on Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell to be notified every time I post a video, as well as leaving a like and a comment if you enjoyed this, and I can't wait to see you all in the next episode.